as of midnight tonight, 1 minute past midnight, London will be in tier 3. In total, it's 11 million more people now affected by those restrictions. Shaun Bailey is the Conservative candidate for Mayor of London. He joins us now. Good morning to you, Shaun.
Morning, Julia.
Morning. Do you support this move into tier 3?
Look, I've been quite clear. I'm not a fan of tier 3. When it was proposed last time, I fought tooth and nail publicly and in the background to get it closed down. So it's tier 2. I've always said tier 3 will be a bitter blow to the businesses in London. And when I say that, I really mean employment. I've always said we should be taking a much more area-based approach so that we can keep livelihoods and lives going. And I really wish that had been followed through.
This is the thing. This is a government. You're a Tory candidate. You're chosen by the Conservative Party. This is a Conservative government that is forcing through measures with no real evidence behind it. Nothing that we've seen, unless they've got some amazing secret data they're choosing not to share with us. No evidence that actually suggests from all the publicly available data that these tier 3 measures will have any effect on saving any more lives. And yet constantly we go back into more and more of these measures. Why do you think the government is doing that?
I think what I'd say, Julie, there is some evidence here that really does work. We know, for instance, that it is teenagers, school-age children, secondary school-age children that are leading to the spike in numbers, not just in London, but across the country. So we do have to respond to that. What I'm saying is I think there's a more targeted way to respond, a way that has less of effect on employment. I know you're a national programme and some of your listeners are exasperated listening about London, but 550,000 jobs lost in London will have a ripple effect across the entire country. And I, for one, want to get London up and going so that we can, do our part in rebuilding the economy. That's why I've constantly challenged the mayor. Where is your plan to bring us into tier 1? Radio silence from the mayor. Now we've ended up in tier 3. We've got to get this together because these lockdowns are crippling the economy, which for me is affecting employment, which is unacceptable.
But this is the thing, isn't it? Is we know that the number of infections cases has gone up in London, but only in certain parts of London. We basically had a massive increase in testing capacity in London. It went up 30% before the November lockdown, and it's gone up again. The number of positive tests has gone up. It has gone up per 100,000. That's how it's rated. The cases per 100,000. What we don't know, and I'm wondering if you've been privy to this, because I've only got data up to the 2nd of December. So we know that there was a 30% increase in testing up to that point. There is no data publicly available I've been able to find, or any of my expert scientists have been able to find, up to this point, to the point where the government is, presumably the government has this data, they're just not sharing it with us, in terms of the number of cases, of number of tests that are carried out, and the percentage of those tests that are carried out that do actually see positives. Because if you test 10 people and if you test 100 people, you are more likely to get more positive tests when you test 100 people. The question is, what is the percentage of positive tests? This is information that is not freely available. There is huge evidence from a whole variety of different surveys and data that the prevalence of the virus is falling in most places across England. It is plateauing in London. There are a few areas that are worrying, but we don't know how many tests has been carried out in those areas, so we have no way of knowing how much worse it is.
Julia,
what do you make of policy being made on the basis of incomplete data?
Julia, here's the point I would make. We needed a plan in London so we didn't end up in tier 3. We're in tier 3 because the mayor has failed us. That's a fact. Whatever the data is, we do need to respond to the spread of the virus. If we had taken an area-based approach, if the Mayor of London had made that case to the government and had prepared it, we taken an area-based approach, we would not be closing down the economy. We can argue and argue and argue about facts and statistics. The bottom line is I'm focused on jobs. Where are we all going to be working? I'm working to a 6-month timeline here. In 6 months' time, I hope the Mayor of London is prepared to apologise to everybody's job that he's thrown in the bin. He's effectively handed out 500,000 P45s. That's what we should be concentrating on. That's what we should be getting rid of. If you look now, how many of your listeners are worried that their job is going to go? And I know you may be sat in Sheffield, you may be sat in Leeds, you may be sat in Solihull. The point is what happens here in London does have an effect on you. He's run TfL's finances into the floor, which is important because we build trains and buses elsewhere in the country. We need a plan to get us out of these lockdowns as quickly as possible. We need to acknowledge this is about lives and livelihoods, not just about facts and statistics. We need to get people back to work. And that's my focus here. Where are we all going to be working come January, February and March?
Yeah, I mean, that's the real focus, isn't it? And again, I completely understand the lockdown if it actually saves lives. We've seen that it hasn't. We've seen the shutting down of hospitality across many countries in Europe and not seen their infection rates drop. There's just simply no evidence that all this does is shut down businesses, affect people's lives, increase unemployment. It doesn't actually save any of us. The big worry, of course, this weekend, Shaun, is going to be, and as we go through Christmas, is actually more and more people, especially those young people who they can't go out to any hospitality venues at all. Basically, we're going to see parties at home. We're going to see illegal raves. We're just in dangerous venues where there isn't any social distancing or any sanitizer or any ventilation or anything. We're probably going to see a greater spread because of these rules.
Let's talk about what we can do. Let's separate that. For school children, we need to extend the Christmas holiday by a week.
Why? Why?
So that because that's the one bit of stats we do have, Julia. That is where the infections are growing. If we extend by a week, it means that schools can prepare.
No, you're confusing correlation and causation. There's no evidence that it's being spread in schools. Children are catching it at home and bringing it into school.
Julia, we can argue all day about the stats. The fact is that more young people are getting it, and then we just need to break that flow there. The second piece we need to do is ask the Mayor of London, be you a Labour voter or a Tory voter or anywhere in between, why isn't this man giving us a plan to get London out of lockdown? That's very, very, very important. And thirdly, you need to look at your own personal risk. My mum has asthma, very serious asthma. I will not be putting her at risk, but I will see other members of my family who are young enough, who are healthy enough to deal with this. Because I go to your point, Julia, at the beginning of the show. What's life for? Life's about family. Life's about friends. We do need to have contact with people because other things are being lost. Not only are we losing employment, we're losing friendships. Our mental health is at risk as well. So we do need to mitigate that. But ultimately, it is up to the individual. If you're a grown-up adult listening to this show, you need to make a decision about what you do with your family and your friends. You can rely on the government, and that's fine, and they give us rules. But ultimately, what do you want to do? If you're nervous, keep your family safe, and everybody should stick to the rules so we can get beyond this, so that in the middle of next year, we're not all looking for jobs. We already have jobs.
Except even when everyone is sticking to the rules, these things don't seem to have any proper effect, and then we're just given more rules. Shaun Bailey, I think a lot of people agree with a lot of what you said there. Conservative candidate for the Mayor of London. I do disagree on the closing of schools for that extra week, though.